Have you ever wondered what venture capitalists really do after they write a check? I mean, are they just good at picking winners from the start? Or does their hands-on involvement actually help make a company successful? Well, that's the exact question we're digging into based on this 2016 paper from the Journal of Finance called The Impact of Venture Capital Monitoring.
To put it another way, are VCs just expert talent scouts, or are they more like coaches who help develop that talent? This paper really tries to pull those two things apart, the initial selection of a company versus the ongoing monitoring and guidance they provide.
So we're going to walk through this just like the paper does. We'll start with the main research question, then get into the really clever way they decided to test it. After that, we'll look at the data, the actual results, and what it all adds up to in the end.
Okay, let's dive right in. The main goal for the authors was to see if they could find a real, causal link between a VC getting involved with a company and that company's ability to innovate and succeed.
Now, here's the smart part of their approach. They decided to look at what happens after an investment has already been made. By doing that, they take the initial selection decision out of the equation, so they can focus only on the impact of the VC's ongoing help.
So how do you even measure that? This is where it gets really creative. They found a way to use a real-world event as a kind of natural experiment, something that all of a sudden made it way easier for VCs to go and check in on their companies.
And that real-world event, it was the introduction of a new airline route. Just think about it. A new direct flight between a VC city and their portfolio company city suddenly cuts down on the time and cost of visiting. In their study, that's the treatment.
So the logic goes like this. If that hands-on, on-site involvement from a VC actually matters, then making it easier for them to show up should, in theory, lead to better results for the company. It's a really clean and powerful idea.
To test this, they used a statistical method called difference in differences. Now, that sounds complicated, but all it really means is they compared the companies that got this treatment, the new flight route, to a control group of similar companies that didn't. This lets them isolate the effect of the easier travel while filtering out a bunch of other noise. Now, to pull all of this off, they had to assemble a pretty huge data set. They combined information on VC deals, company patents, and airline routes over a 30-year span, from 1977 all the way to 2006. By mashing all this data together, they could connect specific VC firms to their portfolio companies, track how innovative those companies were, and pinpoint the exact moment a new flight route made it easier for the VC to visit.
And this chart really drives home why air travel is so important here. We're not talking about a quick drive across town. A huge number of these VCs are hundreds of miles away from the companies they invest in, which makes flights pretty much essential for any real face-to-face time.
When it came to measuring innovation, they looked at two things. First, the raw number of patents a company filed. But they also looked at the quality of those patents by counting how many times they were cited by other inventions. You see, a highly cited patent usually means it's a pretty important idea.
And for what counts as success? Well, they focused on the big exit events for a startup, either going public through an IPO or getting acquired for a nice chunk of change.
All right, so the stage is set. They have this great natural experiment, all the data is in place, so what did they actually find? Did making travel easier really matter?
The answer is yes, and the results are pretty clear. When a new airline route was introduced, the portfolio company's patent output went up by 3.1%. That's a real, measurable jump in innovation, seemingly just from a more convenient flight.
And it wasn't just more patents, they were better patents. You can see it in this table here. The number of citations per patent, our quality measure, jumped by 5.8%. So more convenient VC access appears to lead to more impactful innovation. Okay. So more and better innovation is great, but does it translate into actual business success? Again, the data points to yes. That new flight route was associated with a 1.4% increase in the likelihood of a successful exit. This table breaks it down a little more. The chance of an IPO specifically went up by 1%, and the overall probability of success, including acquisitions, rose by that 1.4%. Now, these numbers might not sound huge, but in the high-stakes world of venture capital, an edge like that is pretty significant. But the researchers didn't want to just rely on these numbers. They wanted to double-check their core assumption, that easier travel really does mean more involvement. So they did the logical thing. They went and asked over 300 VCs directly.
And the survey results couldn't have been clearer. A massive majority said that yes, direct flights help them spend more time on site with their companies and give them the flexibility to visit when they're needed most.
And like any good study, they really put their findings through the ringer with a ton of extra tests. For instance, they ran placebo tests, where they basically checked if the same effect would show up for random VC company pairs. It didn't. This helps confirm their results are the real deal, not just a statistical fluke.
So after all that, what's the big takeaway here? What does this paper really add to what we know about venture capital? Well, it provides some of the strongest evidence to date that what VCs do after writing the check, the monitoring, the advising, that hands-on help, has a real causal impact. It's not just about picking the right horse, it's also about how you coach it. I think the authors themselves say it best right in the paper. VC's on-site involvement with their portfolio companies is an important determinant of innovation and success. It seems that in the world of venture capital, just being there really can make all the difference.